Shoulders that we stand on. That's what I think about when I think about our guest, our super guest that we have on the line with us this morning. And I'd like to welcome to the show this morning former senator and ambassador from the great city of Chicago, Carol Elizabeth Moseley Braun. How are you doing this morning, ma'am?
A little stressed. I'm fine. Otherwise, my ringer wasn't on, so I didn't hear your first couple of calls.
That's okay. Don't deep breath, woosah moment. We got you. So
yeah, woosah. Exactly.
Woosah. Well, thank you for being with us. I mean that you are. I'm going to dive into the deep end of the pool, and I've used a couple times this morning the word shero. And I posted this on my socials yesterday, and I got some of the most amazing responses from people. And one of the ones that stuck with me was from my sister, who, like you, is a native of Chicago, and said she's one of my sheroes, and I'm so glad that she's going to be on the show this morning. And I just have to tell you, I'm giving you your flowers right out of the gate. Shoulders that we stand on. You are that person. And I'll start off by just asking you, what are you doing right now? What are you working on? I know you've got, I don't want to steal your thunder with this great thing that you got coming out in 2025, but tell us about what you've been working on, what you've been doing these last couple of years.
Well, working on the book, of course, they're doing a book about me, and so I've been working on that twice a week. And I'm also, the president appointed me as the chairman of the USADF, United States Africa Development Foundation. So that's been a lot of my time.
That's a lot of work.
And, it is.
That's a lot of work.
But it's fun. It's good stuff. It's doing good work, and that's what I'm here for.
And that's one of the things that's keeping you busy. Yes, former Senator Moseley Braun has a memoir coming out in 2025, and you guys are definitely going to want to get it. And obviously, she is the first is something that seems to be a big part of being a Chicago professional, being a Chicago elected official. Many of you guys don't realize this, that Ms. Braun is the first African-American woman elected to the U.S. Senate. It's the first African-American U.S. senator from the Democratic Party, the first woman to defeat an incumbent U.S. senator in a primary, and the first female senator from the state of Illinois. A lot of firsts there. And I'd like you to talk about what we're on the precipice of having another first in terms of Vice President Harris becoming the first woman and African American Asian woman president of the United States.
Well, as you brilliantly put it, your mouth to God's ears. I hope we will have her. I mean, I'm on tenterhooks, pins and needles, hoping this happens in a couple of days. She's got to be beside herself because she's working so hard to get out and make the case for her presidency. But she's got all the equipment. I think she can do a very good job. She understands the issues. She's been involved with the issues. And that's what the American people, they want somebody on their side. Not just on their own side, which unfortunately may be the case with the former president running.
Yeah, and there's a strong separation between having someone that's on your side and advocating for all of the country versus someone that's got a very, very narrow view of what the country should look like and can look like. What do you think? What do you think is the one or two, three things that just are her superpowers, if you will, or her real strengths as a leader and as a politician?
I think she knows how to speak to people. She speaks plainly and to the point, and she really knows the issues, and so she can, I think, drill down to the travails of ordinary people, and that's really what we need now. Somebody who understands that ordinary people are less interested in macroeconomics than they are how much groceries cost. And so, even though those two things are obviously related, but I think, is going to be able to do a good job because she does have an understanding of where the great middle class is and has been and what the challenges are.
Explain, if you can, I know you can, but explain the importance of having a Senate and you as a former senator know this, but if you can explain from the experiences that you've had, why the Senate is so important to have in the hands of Democrats when you have a Democratic president.
Well, because their agenda may not get passed. I mean, Senate votes come down very closely to 1 or 2 votes. You've seen how many times she's had to sit and be a tiebreaker. Because it comes down to 1 or 2 votes at best, and that's a stretch. The fact of the matter is, we need to have somebody who's there on the side working with the administration, not against it. Yeah, that's my short answer.
Legislatively, right now, if we to bring this back home to the state of Illinois, we're doing a pretty good job here, and the governor and the lieutenant governor who have been on our show, meaning the lieutenant governor, have really helped us turn the corner from previous administrations. And if you could take a moment and explain why it's so important that people are engaged in local politics, because you yourself, for lack of better words, came through the ranks of local politics. Yeah. But explain why, because I talk about it all the time, Ms. Braun, and all the time I talk about national is important, regional is important, but local is critically important. Talk about that if you can.
Well, Tip O'Neill, I think that was actually, I hope I'm not misquoting him, was the one who said all politics is local. And he's exactly right, because it doesn't matter what's going on at the macroeconomic level if you can't buy groceries. If you can't send your kid to school and you can't afford to live the life you want to live, then it's all irrelevant, right? And so she understands that, coming from a middle class background, having worked, and she even worked at McDonald's. I mean, even that's controversial. Don't ask me why. It's like,
why.
I do know why, but it's just crazy, and because the fact of that is she's worked even as a teenager. We all had teenage jobs, right?
Yeah.
I was a checker in a grocery store.
But she gets it. And I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So you said that one of the things that she was definitely going to face, and it's clear, it's common sense, but it's definitely, you have a personal experience with this, and that was the misogyny that would be at her feet during this process. One of the first people to come out to say that's going to be one of the biggest challenges she encounters during this race. Speak to that from your own experience, if you can.
Well, it's a tough nut to crack, and I don't quite know why it hasn't gone away yet. That women are given a less credible position than otherwise, and so she's got to face that in the first place. She's already has faced it. A lot of the garbage that's being thrown at her has to do with just the fact that she's a female. And it's why this is so, I can give you a history lecture, but I don't want to do that.
We'll save that for another show. We may sit down and do a pre-recorded interview, because I definitely, as a guy, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, I apologize. As a guy, I know as a guy, we don't know everything. And I'm the guy that was raised in that household of strong men and women, and learned to listen, to say, oh yeah, Mom, Auntie Sarah, my big sisters, they got it right. Maybe I should pay attention to what they have to say.
Yeah. Well, and it goes, it really is, it's one of those ancient divisions in humankind that we can point to. In fact, this is an ad for a movie. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a movie about a woman who's raped by an enemy of her husband's, and she decided she was going to speak up about it. And so the whole thing wound up going to trial, and again, they reiterated a number of the suggestions, the commonly held beliefs at the time during this trial. And it was really shocking to me. I was like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Here we are 400 years later, and we're still having the same kind of debates. It doesn't make sense to me. But because women obviously do carry a lot of the weight of humankind. I mean, we're partners in all of this, and it's not one on top of the other. It really is both working together. And there's a lot of people who just will not come to grips with that.
That's true, and Right. To have to keep repeating it and repeating it and repeating it, it's exhausting. But we're in for the fight. We're going to pull our shoulders back and do the things we have to do. So, have you voted already? Did you early vote? Or are you going to?
Yes, I've already voted.
You already voted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, are you going to be a real champion and get out there on Tuesday morning and do it? But you've already early voted. I did too, and so I got to give a shout out to our folks here in Illinois, specifically in Chicago and Cook County. It took more time to actually stand at the machine and vote than it did to get through the line, get in, get registered and all that. So I got to give props and kudos to the state, to all of our county organizers and local organizers, because it was fairly easy to get done. What was your experience like?
Mine was very easy. I got the thing in the mail, and it took the time for me to go through. I knew most of the candidates, frankly, even personally. I know a lot of them. And so I just went through and check. And it was very easy in that regard. So I kudos to the election officials who, in the midst of all this craziness, and there is a lot of craziness going on, they have managed to keep the process on an even keel and make it fairly simple for people. If somebody wants to vote, they can vote.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I walked out. I was saying this earlier this week on the show, that walking back to the car with my wife, I said, why can't it be this blankety blank easy, a little profanity throughout the rest of the country? Because it was that easy here. Chicago gets labeled with a lot of garbage, but we get stuff done. We've had a phenomenal summer. We pulled off one of the biggest events, global events, in terms of the convention. We have had, the NASCAR. We've just keep getting it done here in Chicago, and you are product of that, like our former president Barack Obama. He's not from Chicago, but he's from Chicago, and he
lives down the street from me.
Right. I mean, so Chicago gets it done, and I appreciate you taking some time to be with us, being a native Chicagoan, being a first of many. You had a quote recently that I thought was just phenomenal. My life has been filled with serendipity, adventure, and adversity. Every experience has been anchored in my strong faith in God. So you get the last word in this last stretch of this election. What are your words to put out to those who are listening to our show?
Well, I'm praying to him now that we come through this election season. I've been on pins and needles about the election, which maybe I shouldn't be, but the polls are so close, and I'm one of those people who maintains the only poll that matters is the one that's taken on Election Day when the last vote is counted. And so until they count the votes, I won't be able to be settled in my situation. And so I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Former Senator and now Ambassador of the United States African Development Foundation, Carol Elizabeth Moseley Braun. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us this morning. We really appreciate it. And you and I will do that. We will do that. We will do that segment and talk a little bit deeper about some of the topics you mentioned earlier. But thank you for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Okay. Stay safe and have a good weekend.
You too.
All right. Bye now.